Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Lonzo Liggins. Welcome to my channel, Off the Beaten Path, where we highlight unique stories and unique businesses in the Black community. Did you know that it was an African-American man that was the first well-documented alien abduction case? Yes, I like aliens, so I want to get into that because it's kind of a crazy topic for me that I've always been into, and now it's a great escape. So hey, you know what? Let's escape with me and hear about this story because you're going to love it. The last but not least thing is that Black folks are moving to Asia in record numbers nowadays. Not just because of the social unrest, but because of one thing that Asia seems to be providing that the United States, the UK, and Australia don't seem to be providing. And I'm going to tell you what that is coming up. So all of these things and more coming up, guys. Come on with me. This is Lonzo Liggins, Off the Beaten Path. Man, let's go. Keep rubbing that, you know. I could get in trouble because of that. You're the white casting director by bringing in sayings. All right, y'all, here we go. Aliens. Aliens. I'm excited about aliens. I can cue the scary music. And I can make this, like, you know, strange, maybe spaceship fly around me and do all kinds of fun stuff. And I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I can. We'll see. But you know what? Why do I like aliens? Because aliens are cool. It's something that I always thought about when I was a kid because it creeped me out thinking that there's possibly these alien spacecrafts that fly around the world and visit us at night and go into our rooms and beam us up into their spaceships and probe us with all these different things. You know, hey, look, that stuff happens. It could happen, right? I mean, there's evidence that stuff like that happens, at least more evidence than that than like most things that are out there. They've got like spaceships in Area 51 and Roswell and all this stuff where, hey, that stuff could really be happening. And we especially know that this next case was one of the cases that made it so that the reason why you hear most people talking about aliens and alien abductions today, the reason why the whole UFO movement just blew up was because of Betty and Barney Hill. Now, Betty and Barney Hill were this interracial couple back in the 1960s. And so a lot of people said back then, because it was 1961, that the reason why they went through this stress and this whole experience was because of the fact that they were going through these problems with their interracial relationship. However, although this was about 6 years prior to the Loving versus Virginia case, they didn't deal with the same stresses that other parts of the world, or at least parts of America, were dealing with when it came to interracial relationships. They were in New Hampshire, which was a little bit more progressive. Now, he was a postal worker and she was a social worker. And according to them, they had no issues in their community from anybody around them about their relationship. So they said that did not contribute to the stress that they were enduring at the time. Let me preface the whole Betty and Barney Hill case with this. Prior to their case, yes, people had talked about UFOs. There had been UFO sightings and people had discussed it a little bit. There had been Hollywood movies, and there had even been people who had claimed to have been abducted, but it wasn't that big of a deal. What made their case stand out so much is they had something that was called missing time. It's where they had repressed memories that came out under hypnosis. Now let's get into the story because it's a crazy one. So here's how the story goes. According to Betty and Barney Hill, so it was September 19th, 1961, roughly 60 years ago. Betty and Barney Hill were driving back from a vacation in Niagara Falls. While they were driving, Betty asked Barney to pull over so they could let their dog use the restroom. While they were pulled over, Betty looked up in the sky and she saw a red flashing light going past the moon. So she grabbed a pair of Barney's binoculars, looked up and observed this UFO very closely. She then told Barney to get back into the car. They started driving down the highway, and as they were driving, they were getting closer, and this craft or spaceship or whatever it was, this UFO, started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden, the craft stopped right in front of their vehicle. Barney got out of the vehicle and walked closer to the UFO. As he approached it, he looked up at it, and he said he could clearly see 8 or 9 beings inside of a window staring out at him as he was watching up at the craft. 8 of the beings went to the back of the spaceship while one of them stood there looking at Barney and began to communicate with him telepathically. At that point in time, he sensed immense danger and turned around and headed back to the car, screaming at Betty, telling her they needed to leave or they were going to be kidnapped by this UFO. They then raced their car down the highway, speeding for 35 miles before the beeping got louder with the spaceship as it got closer and closer and closer, and it bared down on them, and then finally, boom, it blacked out. The next thing they knew, they woke up a few hours later in their car and they had lost time. Now, this is the phenomena in UFO called missing time. It's where people report being in one place and the next thing you know, they black out, wake up 3 hours later, and then later on, their repressed memories can be pulled out by a psychiatrist, which is exactly what happened to Betty and Barney Hill. Here's an excerpt from Barney's hypnosis.
All right, Captain, what is he? You're still asleep, but you can see it all clearly. Looks like a big pancake with windows.
One thing's for certain. After this situation happened, the world went nuts.
So people, I think, have conflated the concept of a UFO with whether we're visited by aliens. UFO means unidentified, flying object.
There's two types that I see. One type is about 3 feet tall, very dark, very ugly.
For those who have been abducted by aliens, there's a support group with its headquarters just 5 minutes from Harvard.
Is this why so many abductees report that their alien abductors are so interested in human genetic material?
Suddenly, the object becomes fully illuminated.
We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States. With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin. During a 3-year investigation, I found that many pilots have described objects of substance and high speed.
That's what made me believe that something happened, because I couldn't deny my emotions.
I heard your own father didn't believe you until he heard the tape. Now that is sort of what we call one of those blood-curdling screams.
The Betty and Barney Hill case was an amazing case that transformed ufology as we know it today. So the next time you're on the water cooler or you're talking to a friend and they start bringing up aliens, you can let them know it was a black guy that really launched the UFO movement as we know it today. Asia, it's a land of beauty, culture, and tradition. It's also a land of amazing architecture, unique foods, and graceful dance. But when I think of Asia, I can't help but think to myself, hey man, are there black folks out there? And if there are black folks, what's it like for them? Because every time I see footage of Asia, I don't ever see any black folks, but apparently there's a thriving black community out in Asia. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of black folks from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from Australia, who are racing over to Asia by the boatloads. And there's one particular thing that keeps them over there, and it's a draw for them. One theme that comes up over and over again.
Safer.
I feel pretty safe.
It just feels safer.
The safety.
This is the safest I've ever felt.
Korea is very physically safe.
Biggest difference, matter of fact, is the safety.
It is safe.
Yeah, folks, apparently Asia is safe. Way safer than the United States. Are you surprised? Because I know I ain't. So let's examine more closely why Asia is so safe. During my research, I found 3 key reasons. Number 1, culture. Asians believe in corporal punishment and they are taught to respect the law at a very young age. According to an article I came across, and I quote, most Asian cultures are predominantly collectivistic in nature. In collectivistic cultures, individuals are seen as embedded within their group identity and the notion of a separate autonomous self is de-emphasized. Even an individual's physical appearance is often seen as not only a reflection of the individual's own internal self, but also a representation of the family, extended family, and perhaps even the Asian community as a whole. So, as you can see, culture plays a major role in their thoughts on crime. Number 2, punishment, surveillance. The severity for even a small crime in Asia is significant. So even when someone commits a small infraction, they can get punished by the fullest extent of the law. Also in Asia, there is a ton of surveillance. There are cameras all over the place, all across Asia. So people who commit crimes know that you will be documented and caught quite rapidly. Number 3, lack of guns. Yes, Asians have a very low gun ownership. In Japan alone, 1 in 175 households owns a gun, whereas in the US, it is 1 in 3. According to Japanese law, no person shall possess a firearm or firearms or a sword or swords. Even if you do get past their extremely stringent background check, you still have to provide the exact location of your gun and ammunition, and give them an update and an inspection every year of your gun. So as you can see, these three things have a major impact on keeping Asia safe. But let me tell you this, even though it's safety that keeps them over there, there's also some other reasons to keep them over there, like this.
I think there are more opportunities actually for black people in Asia because Asia itself is exploding with its growth, with its wealth, and the more growth there is, the more business opportunities there are. And the more business opportunities there are, the more attractive it is to wider and wider demographics.
Being here in Japan, I've just been afforded so much more wide range of opportunity that I never would have had back home.
It's not as bad as you think it is. It's not as bad as you think it is. And it's probably a lot more fun than you expect it to be. There's more opportunity here. Not necessarily saying there's less opportunity where you're from, but there's opportunity here that is just open opportunity.
Ability of life here in terms of difference in the States, and like in the States, most people say they go to work or school, they go home because you can't afford anything else. So it's like having, how do I say, a life is it's kind of difficult for a college graduate in the States because first off, you're paying back your loans, and then you have your apartment, or your house, bill. Then you have your insurance, your car payment, your phone payment, and then you better hope you don't get sick because that's expensive. And so it's like you're working paycheck to paycheck, and no matter how much money you make, it just seems like you're always in the red. But it's like, since we come across these, it's like we can breathe.
Freedom.
It's freedom. We can go out to eat, we can go get a massage, make a trip to Seoul and go shopping if we want to. It's like the little things that honestly we didn't realize we were missing out in the States, you can experience.
I don't fear the police. I don't fear white people. I don't fear black people. I don't fear yellow people. I feel like a free black man. Actually, I'm just a free man.
I know that the first thing that you're saying to me is, hey man, look, it can't be all great, right? I want to hear the other side of the coin. Because it can't be all safe and great. There's got to be some weird, bad experiences. Every place has a negative downside. I'm glad you asked, because I asked the same thing. And here's what I found out.
For me as a black person, it was a real culture shock. Having what I'd say is your personal space, your privacy invaded at most opportunities in public. Whether it's people taking pictures of you without asking, or people asking to take pictures of you, people asking you to hold their child, people staring at you, children pointing at you. Psychologically, it's really difficult to adapt to that when you've come from a society where even if you are a minority, it's accepted, it's known, that diversity is present.
I also think as a black man that, that some Japanese are still ignorant, and just like some white people in the United States of America have this probably preempted fear of us, and that especially comes from media news, or probably from what people tell them, word of mouth, that we're these violent beings. Yeah, you're seen as strong and scary and, this threat, instead of them just coming up to you and saying, hello, hey, how are you doing? And trying to figure out who you are and what you're about. Just standing next to a female or somebody at a stoplight, I had experiences where they just tend to move away, think I'm trying to bother them, and it's like, I'm not trying, I'm just standing here waiting for the light to change. And it's like, they think you don't know what it is, but it's like, I know what it is. I've experienced this before. I know exactly what it is.
This is Lonzo Liggins. Thank you for watching Off the Beaten Path. Like, comment, subscribe. I want to hear from you guys. We got some more episodes coming up along the way. I try to drop them every Monday and Friday, but I might be doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to put that on my workload or my work schedule. You know what I mean? So, Off the Beaten Path, Lonzo Liggins. Let's go.